and you mentioned this, and you talk about, again, there's some of these bucks, and it kind of really comes down back to that personality type. Some bucks, even late season, are still making these long treks. Other bucks are honing in. They're kind of getting their little area that they're really comfortable in. You mentioned, like, the one last year is like 80 acres, kind of spend time in.
Yeah.
For a guy running trail cameras, is there any kind of strategy from a camera standpoint of trying to determine whether you have one of those homebody late season bucks versus a roamer, especially depending on the size of the acreage?
Yeah, and also worth noting that 80-acre kind of home range lackadaisical buck, he still made a couple treks way outside of that range. Like, he was still showing rutting activity, just nowhere near at the same consistency that other one was. The other one was just all the time, nonstop. He had to be everywhere. And that other buck, most of the time he was browsing around. He just kind of hung in the 80 acres, but every once in a while he would still go on those morning treks to go out and cut a bunch of trails and see how many does he could scent check. So even that kind of home-bodied buck, he's still huntable in that same mindset of going out and finding him on kind of terrain features. But yeah, an idea of utilizing trail cameras for that. I mean, if you had the property for it, or if you're hunting public and it's big enough, and you have a section where you're pulling a picture of him on one side of 1,000 acres and the other side of 1,000 acres, and you're doing so within a pretty quick time frame, even if it's just morning evening time frame, then he's probably moving a pretty long distance. Now, if you're just kind of getting pictures of him on one trail camera consistently and maybe trying to piece together something based off of the time of day that you're getting photos of him and whatnot, I don't think that you can put anything together with that. But it really takes seeing him more than once and on multiple cameras, or with your eyes here and then with a camera here. So you just have to see him more than once to be able to piece together that, okay, he is traveling pretty far. And then even if you do, it could just be a situation where he was on the 80 acres and then he left out, and then now he's back to being a homebody. So now you're thinking you're hunting a buck that's extremely mobile, whenever in reality he's still a homebody. So really you need to be able to see him on multiple locations, multiple times, to verify the fact that, like, he really is, he's making a lot of movements. So, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think it's pretty complicated to be able to identify exactly what a mature buck is doing in terms of individualistic behavior, barring having a thermal drone, which do you do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, especially when we're talking late season, did you see, what are the bedding changes for some of these bucks? Or were some of the bedding changes some of these bucks you followed all season? Did they stay consistent, or did it start moving a little bit, kind of getting into late season? Mm-hmm. I want you to answer that, but also, did that area shrink where they were bedding or not?
Like the area that they're using consistently, did it shrink? Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything to that nature. It may have happened, potentially. But I was seeing with some deer, especially moving into the late season, and the ones that were highly mobile, I can talk about them first. Mm-hmm. They would bed down a lot more frequently in random areas, almost as if they were just kind of like they're just exhausted. So it's just like, well, I'm just going to bed here. Like it'll be good enough for now, and then get up after a short time frame and move on, and then bed back down and wherever they were really wanting to be. And I don't really know 100% why they were doing that, but the only thing I can piece it together is the fact that either maybe something was bothering them, like maybe that one deer had a hurt foot, or maybe he's just in general tired of traveling the terrain as far as he has been for as long as he has been. And in terms of the kind of more sedentary styled buck, I mean, not really. His home range, and I guess in the example that I use a lot consistently is the 80-acre buck, just because I'd recorded him so much as well. Yeah, I mean, his home range didn't really shrink. He really had 3 main beds that he utilized, and the main one he utilized, which is same across the board for a lot of bucks, was kind of a micro thermal hub that he was bedding in, and he had a lot of deer around him in that time frame, and it didn't really shrink at any point. It just kind of really, that bedding area, as I would call it, it was probably like 50 to 100 yards in a circle, and he just kind of bedded somewhere within that range.
It makes me wonder, and I don't know if this would be possible, do you think you could have success going in, specifically, I want to take archery hunters, out of the equation. Gun or
well, I'm going to get up and leave the podcast.
gun or like rifle or muzzleloader hunters specifically. Do you think you could have success going in? Maybe put bow hunters back into it. if you think
I'm
you
back.
have one, if,
It's like, please don't leave.
no. Well, I was just thinking, if do you think if you found one of those homebody bucks and it was just like one of those places that would be kind of tough to hunt, do you think you could bump them out of there? And you have guys talking about like bump and dump. Do you think you could have success in that in the same day, late season, or absolutely not? And it would have to be one of those things that is there any way you could get inside that bubble late season, even though they
Yeah,
can see far?
I'm sure you could, but you would be really banking on the fact that he's going to be one of the first year back. Because you're not bumping him, you're bumping everything in that little range. And now you're basing the fact that he's going to be one of the first deer back into the area. And if he's not, then you're going to have to fool all the other deer that are coming back into that area as well. So yeah, I mean, in theory, if you could just like know where his home range is, put like a little camper shell, something you can sneak into and go to sleep in, and then pop up in the middle of the day and try to hunt him based off that.
Didn't Bill make you do that?
He did.
In
Yeah,
one
that's why I
spot?
thought of it. Yeah, call out to him. Pretty smart strategy, really. Yeah.
Sleeping next to a log in a sleeping bag.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, now he's got a camper shell thing he's doing. So.
Is that what he's doing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm total sidetrack. I hadn't talked about that.
sorry.
That does bring up an interesting question, and this is a question we get fairly often, and we've touched on it just a little bit so far, but we'll get questions from people who are basically asking about scouting, like, hey, should I go in here and like try to learn the area and risk bumping these deer, or should I just kind of go in blind and just hunt it the first time? You were talking about when you bump a buck and you watch them. Again, this is, GPS studies have kind of shown this too, but
Yeah.
it's not like they get up and like move completely. And I think it maybe takes a lot to like actually make them vacate an area.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on that? Especially late season. Let's say that there's a guy who he's been hunting all year, not having success. It's down to late season. He's like, I just got to recalibrate. I got to go out here and figure out what's going on, find some sign. What's your take on that? Like going and bumping all those deer out and scouting it and the impact
Yeah.
that has, and then
Yeah.
how soon would you hunt it?
Yeah, no, I mean, going in and bumping them, I don't think it has much of an effect unless you're doing it at like just a crazy high frequency. Like if you go in and you learn enough information that you can hunt based off of it, then go ahead and turn yourself back into a hunter and quit scouting and try to hunt off of that sign versus going in for like, if you go in like 3 days in a row or 5 days or whatever, you're going to start to have an impact. I think the only time that you can actually shove a mature buck out of the area though, you'd have to be in there a lot. You would have to be all over his home range and like laying all over his bed and sleeping there whenever he comes back. Like you're going to have to be in his home range because in the late season, they've already predetermined and kind of this location meets all of their needs. And survival is kind of pretty important at this time frame because they've ran themselves rampant. So they need food and they need water and they need shelter. And this location serves that for him perfectly. So a human being walking through the woods 1 or 2 times, I'm coming right back to my house. That's not a big deal. Human being coming through like 7 to 10 times, okay, something's wrong with this area. Like, something's changing, and he might come back and check on it, but you're going to start disrupting it at some point.
I've wondered about that because that's kind of the approach that I've wondered about. Because if I like go in and like violate a bedding area, like I'm in there, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna really walk it. I'm gonna walk.
Yeah, if I'm in it, I'm just
Yeah, I'm gonna walk the whole thing, and that's just what I'm doing today. Because like you're saying, I want to learn everything I need to know, and hopefully just one bout where I just go in there, figure it out, track it up, and then leave, and then come back later.
Yeah.
It would be, this is a thought I had. It would be interesting to see, and you'd have to find a property that maybe you're not hunting that you could do this on. If you could go in and bump a buck multiple times within 4 or 5 days and see how far he truly tries to relocate and how long he stays away from that general area that you had bumped him out of previously.
Yeah.
And I know it's probably personality between deer, but like we always heard growing up, and I wonder if you hear the same thing, that like, man, you bump a buck, he's gone, he's in the next camp. And the more we talk to some of these researchers with GPS studies where they've had like hunters in the same area and they can actually see where deer get bumped and they just stay there. Like, they move, like you said, a couple hundred yards, but they stay, they don't leave.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, like, how much would it take on some bucks to truly make them vacate?
Actually shove them
Like,
out.
say, like a 400 acre area, 500 acre area. How long, especially if they're in the center of that, how much pressure would it take to truly get them to vacate where they do not come back to it?
Yeah, no, I think it would take a lot. I think it's going to take a lot of pressure to push one out because, like I said, they've determined that this location meets all their needs. So to be able to actually shove him out and relocate him, to have to go find a new location that meets all of those same needs to the level that this one does, it's just, that's a really big ask for a deer in the late season.
Well, that, and also, especially an older buck, he wouldn't get old if he kept having to relocate like that. Like I had somebody tell me, it was one of the guests we've had on the podcast, that like, you bumped a big buck out of the area, talking about like, he thought it'd almost give the buck more confidence in that area because it worked. Like he saw, smelled you, or heard you, and he got out of there. Versus trying to go and have to find a new area every single time. He's like, if they did that every single time, they'd all die. He's like, anyways. So it makes me wonder with that too. Is like, unless I don't know what you can do to truly make him completely vacate an area.
Well, and also once you start adding age into the equation, like say he's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, he's been in this location before throughout that time frame. So he's already known that it's worked for him in terms of meeting all of his needs that he needed throughout that time frame, whether it's safety and all of his food stuff. And so yeah, I know. I think the older he gets, I would assume that it's going to be harder. And obviously it's individualistic, but I would assume it's going to be even harder and harder to shove him out of that location.
Talk about late season post rut, all that stuff. I had guys tell me this in Iowa, and actually saw evidence of this, where bucks were messing with doe fawns. Doe fawns coming to heat like in January.
Yep.
Did you ever see any evidence of that at all?
Oh yeah.
Last year?
Yeah. No, I mean, statistically in my area, doe fawns can come in to estrus kind of in that like December time frame. That's whenever they can start, and it's all based off of critical mass whenever they hit 70 pounds, which if you have good browse, then they're going to probably be able to achieve that and then enter into estrus. And that's another thing that adds to the volatility range of the rut, and what makes it so hard to kind of target one deer is because then you start adding the fawns to the equation, and then you have the unbred fawns, and then they go back into estrus, come into like late January or middle of January or all the way into February, and that's why you're seeing those bucks be able to chase all the way into that time frame, is because a lot of times it's going to be those fawns that are kind of continuing to be in estrus all the way throughout that time frame.